Hey church, Lucas Jackson here. Hey church, Lucas Jackson here, the student pastor at our amazing church, and I have the pleasure to lead our student ministry. And so, thanks so much for taking the time to hear and to learn about what we do in our student ministry. And excited to be able to share just my passion, desire for students. And let me just tell you, being a part of pouring into students is, I think, the best thing in the world. And I want to tell you why it's so important to me specifically, and then I'll tell you a little bit about what we do and what we're about. And the one thing I love most about students is they're pretty raw. As an adult, you learn how to hide sin really, really well. You've had experience, you've been around long enough to be able to manipulate, and you've kind of been through a few things, so you understand fear and anxiety and to be anxious. And you understand, like, okay, the Lord's going to provide and you're going to make it through. And so, but students aren't that way. When a student experiences a breakup, they may think that the entire world is over. And as adults, we sometimes forget what that feeling is like when you feel something for the first time. If you've never had broken up in a relationship before, it's a whole new body experience for you. And it can be really any topic or anything that we experience in life. But so students experience all that for the first time. And if you've earned the right to speak truth and love into a student's life, when those things happen, you're going to be the one they text. You're going to be the one they call. You're going to be the one they reach out to for help and guidance. Adults, we tend to not do that. In my observation in life, a lot of times as adults, we hide sin so well that maybe we don't even want to tell our spouses or even our kids or anybody else in our lives. And so we hide it. And then we get to a point where we're at a breaking point, and you've got to lose a job. Somebody has to die in the family. Some disastrous thing has to happen before we as adults even think about asking for help. But students aren't that way. They're much more raw and much more moldable. And if you've earned the right to speak into their life, you're going to be the one that they're going to reach out to. And so that's what we do in student ministry. We offer an environment and an atmosphere where students can come and they can meet Jesus, know Jesus, and follow Jesus. That's simply what we're all about. In this particular season and time, we're meeting together every Wednesday night, 6:30 to 8:30. We eat around some food because that's a part of life. And a great way to connect with students is having a plate of food in front of you. So we gather together, we have a meal, we'll have a time of worship and some student interactive or a game. And then we break up into small groups that are grade in gender. So what that means is 6th grade boys, 7th grade girls, and all the way through our senior guys and senior girls. And we study the word together. We encourage each other. And the really cool thing is, a couple of weeks ago, one of our students who I hadn't seen in a while came back. And so we're crazy excited. We're hugging and just reminiscing about seeing him and that sort of stuff. And he brought a friend. And the cool thing about that is the friend he brought with him to small groups didn't know anything about setting down, and never actually sat down in a group of people and studied the scripture together. And so we have these environments designed where our students invite their friends, their lost friends. And we, as the leaders and the other students in the group, had an opportunity to literally present the gospel, share the gospel, and even to ask questions like, man, what does it feel like for you to sit in a group like this, the Lord who you really don't know, to understand and read. And literally, we had him read passages of scripture with us, just like everybody else. And so he's doing this for the first time, and he's never done this entire life. And so it's so cool to be able to see that. And so we offer that every Wednesday where we can gather together to help students meet, know, and follow Jesus. And to be honest, one of the best things that I think that we as Austin Oaks Church, specifically in our student ministry, that we have to offer is our leaders. People who show up every week to pour into their small group of students to help them to meet, know, and to follow Christ. And let me tell you a little bit about that. In student ministry, we operate a little differently in some other aspects of the church. And so we put students in a group, in a small group, with a couple other leaders, usually 2 to 3 leaders. And our desire is for those 2 to 3 leaders to graduate with the students, to increase when they're in 6th grade. They're there pouring into that group of students all the way throughout the year and meeting with them. And then they progress into 7th grade, then 8th grade, then 9th, 10th, 11th, and then 12th grade. And even to pursue those students their first year after they graduate and go off to college, military, workforce, or whatever it may be, our leaders show up all the time, consistently, to pour into your sons and daughters, not to replace what you parents do or your grandparents do or your aunts and uncles, not to replace that, but to be a supplement for that, for us to be able to reiterate the same gospel truth that, Lord willing, you're emphasizing in your own home. And it is so cool. And we often tell our leaders, stick around long enough to get the wedding invitation. What would it look like for even maybe you thinking about serving in student ministry? What would it look like for our leaders and people like you to sit in a seat to see their student, either the bride or staring at the groom up on the stage as the bride comes down the aisle? What would it be like to look at that and to nudge the people next to you and say, I was a part of that. I was a part of that student and their relationship and the pursuit of the Lord. And so, so anyway, we tell our leaders that quite often. And so, sorry. And so, so stick around long enough to get the wedding invitation is a phrase that we say quite often. And so it's our leaders that show up every single week to pour into our students. And we're not really experts. Like, culture changes like every 6 weeks to 3 months when it comes to student ministry stuff. And so we're just doing everything we can to show up and to pour into as many students that we have here in Austin, Texas, as the Lord will bring to us. And so we'd love for you to be a part of that. If you're at all considering being a part of discipling the next generation, not showing up just to do daycare, but showing up to intentionally pour into the life of a group of men or women who are students who need people like you, like church. Let me tell you, you need to understand that if the next generation is going to grow up and have a faith that will outlast us when we're dead and gone, you are going to have to learn and be a part of what it means to pour into the students that we have. There's not enough. There's enough of us that are sitting around and observing and that sort of thing. But what would it look like for you to be a part of that? And you don't have to be cool. You just have to be willing to show up. You have to be somebody who's a follower of Jesus that says, hey, like, I'm here to pour into a group of students, and you just point them to meet, know, and follow Jesus. That's all that we need to do. And we need to be there for the students in every way we possibly can. So if you go to our church website, you can scroll down to the students section of the page, and you can click on a link there on how to serve and get involved. You'll fill out an application. It'll let me know to connect with you and to meet up with you, have some coffee, hear your story, your passion, desire for the Lord, to meet you and your family, to even have you guys over for dinner at my family's house sometime, and just to see what would it look like for you to be a part of helping every student meet, know, and follow Jesus within our church and within our city. And so I'd love to be able to get you involved and to help you just understand like what our youth ministry is about, and to help you just to see what the Lord's doing. So thank you so much for your time.